Hi everyone, as folks are trickling in, we're going to go ahead and start with some introductions and some reminders. So this event is actually going to be recorded. So this is just a recording right now. And if you ever need to go back and watch over, if folks like friends come in late, they can always go to our YouTube afterward and we'll send the recording over after the event. So this event is Entrepreneurs Making an Impact. Is part of the Changemaker week that is going on. So there's going to be multiple events after today as well that goes along with just celebrating Changemakers at UC San Diego. And the recording will be posted after the event is over on our YouTube and also on our social media. Awesome. So first, we're going to make a quick land acknowledgement. As you know, we are all on Kumeyaay land if y'all are at UC San Diego. So the UC San Diego community holds great respect for the land and the original people of their area where our campus is located. The university was built on the unceded territory of the Kumeyaay Nation. Today, the Kumeyaay people continue to maintain their political sovereignty and cultural traditions as vital members of the San Diego community. We're honored to share this space with them, and we thank them for their stewardship. So if you're not in San Diego right now, we do encourage you to go to nativeland.ca and to check what land you're on and acknowledge that as well. So I'm going to be your moderator today. I'm Amanda. My pronouns are they, them, and she, hers. I'm the current marketing communication assistant at the Basement, UCSD. And I'm also part of the startup Queer Taiwan, which is also part of the Basement. And we share queer Taiwanese people's experiences on all sorts of media platforms. So we're going to go ahead and introduce our panelists today. We have 4. So right now we're going to ask folks to say their name, their major, and if they're an UCSD student or alum, their graduating class, name of organization and company, and their current role. So let's get started with Renee.
Okay. Hi, everybody. Thanks for having me. I'm Renee Zell. I graduated from UCSD Warren College in 1995. Ooh, sounds like a long time ago. I am the co-founder and CEO of donationmatch.com.
Awesome. Let's have Diana go next.
Yeah, thank you. So my name's Diana. My pronouns are she, hers, and I am a student at the medical school. So I guess that's my major. I'm in the combined MD PhD program right now in my 2nd year. And I am here today to talk to you all about the UCSD Student Run Free Clinic, where I have been a general manager at one of our sites over in Normal Heights for the last little over a year.
Thank you. And Reese?
Hi, everyone. I'm Reese. I'm current computer science major here at UCSD in Marshall College. Go Marshall. I graduate in December 2021. I launched a company called Time for Survivors, and I am the CEO and founder.
Awesome. And finally, we have Trevor.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for having me. My name is Trevor Prophet, and I am an extended UCSD family member. Both of the co-founders of Family Proud were a part of the UCSD's Rady Executive MBA program. And I was a 2006 Naval Academy graduate, and then I graduated from the Stanford Graduate School of Business in 2019. It's great to be here. Thank you.
You're muted, Amanda.
Thank you. Oh my gosh. We're gonna get started with the questions. Sorry about that. And if you ever have any questions, just feel free to put them in the chat. And if at the very end, we will address those questions. So the first question is, tell us what you've been working on. And let's have Reese.
Hi. So I've been working for the past year on a web platform called Time for Survivors. And what we are is a place where sexual assault survivors can go through an initial Title IX interview. And then we lock and document those reports until they're ready to come forward. And now we're partnering with universities, so all their resources can be consolidated in one place and they can chat and work with survivors all within the same platform.
Awesome, thank you. Diana?
Yeah, so the UCSD student-run free clinic project, this is a partnership that's been going on for over 20 years now. And it was originally founded by UCSD medical students, but we have partnerships with the community, with undergraduate volunteers and early graduate volunteers, and also physicians from UCSD Health and around the San Diego area. And basically our goal is to provide quality healthcare for those who do not have other options for them, and we try to do this in a way that's as respectful and empowering as possible. And as our founding director and our current director both say, you know, our number one priority is making sure that our patients get the same level of care that they would be getting if they went over to Kaiser or anywhere else. And so that's something that's been really motivating for me, and I'm sure we'll talk more about it.
Awesome. And we have Renee.
Hi, so at Donation Match, which I've been working on for over 10 years now, we help companies that give products and services to charity events and make their end of the process so much easier that that their process of accepting requests, getting them vetted, and even fulfillment of gift certificates and products can be as easy as a click. On the flip side, we also, by building this network of donors, enable charities and nonprofits to be able to apply for donations from our network of donor companies with a single application, which makes it a lot easier and saves time for both sides of the giving and the receiving.
Thank you. And finally, Trevor.
Yes, so I run business operations and strategy lead for Family Proud, which is a care coordination software platform dedicated to giving families the support networks they deserve and handle the emotional, logistical, and financial burdens of care. We believe that everyone deserves a support system, no matter who you are, what you've been through, who you know, what kind of network you're connected to. So really believe in equity throughout healthcare and managing adversity through your community and support system. It's got a great founding story, and I look forward to sharing that here in a bit.
Yes, awesome. As Trevor was telling us, we're going to learn a little bit more about how folks got into where they are. So Trevor, why don't you continue and tell us what your origin story was and what motivated you to work on that idea?
So it was founded in 2018. I was not one of the co-founders, but everyone on the team has a personal touch point to, some kind of medical crisis or adversity, and none truer for the two founders. So Clay Treska is a two-time cancer survivor. First time was testicular cancer, beat it through multiple procedures and treatments. And then the second time, he ended up going all the way to hospice and beats it through another clinical trial that was, just talking through extensions of doctors. And a year to the date he beat cancer, he runs an Ironman in Kona, Hawaii. So just a totally inspirational guy. You can YouTube and Google Clay Treska. So he has kind of the survivor perspective, and he's interested in trying to, scale the way that we learn about certain clinical treatments and stuff that you're not always exposed to. And then Jaden has the caregiver perspective. So he was deployed to Afghanistan. His mom had a heart attack, trying to figure out how he can create a support system around that. And that's kind of the genesis of Family Proud. Everyone on the team has been a caregiver, supporter, survivor in some capacity. And so we believe in building, empathy through technology and giving everyone the support network they deserve.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing that story. Let's have Renee share their origin story next.
Sure. So Donation Match was created through my pain points as both a business owner and a nonprofit volunteer. And what actually happened was I was a franchisee of Curbs Fitness Centers starting in 2000. And after a couple of years, we formed a marketing co-op and I was in charge of creating some marketing partnerships. So we started partnering with some nonprofits. The American Heart Association was the first one, or really the one we got most involved with, and the Go Red for Women campaign. And what happened was I joined their annual charity luncheon committee and was immediately tasked with finding donations for their silent auction. And through that experience and the difficulty of having to make hundreds of asks in person, by phone, by email, I don't know if people realize that it actually takes on average 300 hours to put on a silent auction, which is about the same number of hours it takes to plan a wedding. So imagine doing that every year for an organization. And that's just the silent auction, not necessarily the rest of the gala. So what happened was I experienced this pain, but on the flip side of it, I also realized that with with our Curves businesses all across San Diego, that we could really help these organizations by giving away short-term memberships. And so in doing so, I also realized that, whether requests came in and I wasn't really sure, who the cause was or who the person was, or we were missing a lot of events that we knew we could have supported, but they didn't even know to ask us. Basically, this type of matchmaking site started to form in my head where there was actually exposure from the givers and the receivers to each other, as long as they basically were a good fit. And through that, I actually sat on the idea for a few years, wishing, refining it, wishing for a technical co-founder. Turns out my soon-to-be boyfriend, who I actually worked with 10 years prior, ended up being someone who said, I'm in between jobs, I'm a consultant, I have a break, I know when my next job starts. Let me put something together for you and see how this works. And 10 and a half years later, he's our CTO still. We are happily married now, but basically we've been both working on this for the last 10 and a half years and have facilitated $80 million worth of products and services to tens of thousands of events in that time.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing. And we have Diana.
Yeah, so for me personally, I don't think I had, a lot of direction when I was kind of getting started in my undergrad. I grew up in Boston and I was at Harvard, and all I knew was that I wanted to help people. I didn't really know what that would look like. I was interested in mental health and I was interested in trying to make a difference, whatever that might mean. And I think it was really when for me personally, when I started working at a suicide prevention hotline and crisis prevention hotline, that I started to just meet a lot of people and talk to the folks who were calling in about what they were going through. And for so many people, there's of course the sort of acute stressors going on in their life, but that's always happening in this background of having an underlying condition or having needs that are not being met by whatever your situation is at the time. And so I think that was sort of what for me sparked this ongoing drive to help people who even just at baseline are not getting the care that they need to be getting. And so fast forward a few years and I ended up at UCSD for med school, largely because I was excited about the free clinic here. And just to give you all a perspective, a lot of medical schools around the country have a student-run free clinic. To my knowledge, UCSD is one of, if not the largest, and we also are one of, if not the only free clinic that focuses primarily on folks who have no insurance coverage, like zero insurance. And if they were not getting healthcare from us, they would not be getting healthcare, period. And so I guess you can kind of understand how that would be something just really motivating and something that has resonated with me, personally, but also building this community around other students and volunteers and faculty at UCSD who are all sort of bonded over that goal. And I think I'll just briefly mention, but as you can imagine, 2020 was a year for a lot of people. And it was also a year for us. A lot of a lot of clinics were closed. A lot of healthcare was not delivered and was put on pause across San Diego and across the country in 2020. And we were really sad about the prospect of having to stop services that are so important for all of our patients. And in particular, we provide them with their medications for treating their diabetes or treating their high blood pressure. And we also provide them with the large majority of our patients with bags of groceries every month, because many of our patients are food insecure as well. And so I think what was kind of born out of this just despair and anxiety over what was happening in 2020, a lot of the med students sort of created a system in which med student volunteers would deliver food and medications to patients in a sort of no contact, low risk environment, because we couldn't have our clinics in person. And so that has been sort of one of my passion projects for the clinic over this past year, is just coordinating all of the hands and the labor that goes into that. But it's been really incredible just to see the impact that you can personally have on someone's life just by like driving to their door and giving them a bag of food. It's been really, really great to see. So yeah, that's me.
Yes, thanks for sharing. And 2020 has been quite a year. Glad to hear all of the things that you're working on. We're going to continue and just ask, like, what resources have helped you all on this journey? And let's start with Renee.
That's a great question. So I would say there are two resources that come to mind really quickly. One is startup accelerators, like the basement. And I didn't go through the basement, of course, but I think the basement is a great program. And I specifically went through one called the Founder Institute, that's based in the Bay Area, and also and several others like Startup Leadership Program, and one actually keeps changing names now, Stella Labs, run by former basement director as well. So definitely look for sources of outside help, but also different perspectives. That's actually something I continue to do. I'm always looking for new incubators or accelerators for whatever stage we're at, because I feel like there's always going to be something I don't know, and that will be able to, the mentors and everyone else involved can certainly enlighten us. Another good point of support for us has been our network. And I think I tend to be someone who stays in touch with a lot of people. Funny off topic is that I'm still really good friends with my first and second husbands, my ex-husbands, which makes a lot of people confused. I don't know, is a little different sometimes, I guess we'll say. But I feel like everybody brings some value to your life, right? Typically, and and I'm a giver as well, so I like to give back to my friends and network. But really engaging in networks like the UCC alumni or the basement alumni groups, and whatever else you're involved in has been good support, even if it's really to again get that outside perspective, so that you're, especially as an entrepreneur that right now may not necessarily have a lot of contact with a lot of people, you don't get into your own head too much. It's always good to reach out and get talk to other people.
Awesome, thank you. What about you, Reese?
Yeah, so especially like I started out this journey honestly pretty recently comparatively, and my first entrepreneurship journey, and I started going completely in the wrong direction multiple times, and I wasted a good chunk of time. So I think some key resources that have helped me initially, especially, was the basement. It really got me set on the right track and really got me moving in the right direction. And since then, we've done the Blackstone Launchpad, which I can't recommend enough, and Berkeley Skydeck's incubator program, which have both been amazing. And adding to what Renee said, your network is super important. I think I've met some of my greatest connections from someone I met at the basement who knew someone else. And that's really helped guide me down my path.
Awesome. Trevor, how about you?
Yeah, so Jaden and Clay, when they were going through that, the MBA executive program, I believe the course they took was lab to market. So just to have professor advisorship, rooting for you and kind of guiding you along, just getting an idea from paper to, to next steps, so to 0.5, if you will, from 0 to 1. And then beyond that, I think they were part of the Start R program. And then just like Renee mentioned, a lot of the accelerators, veteran specific. There's a Bunker Labs in San Diego, and Jaden went through that. And then there's a digital health cohort within the NextCube Investor Accelerator, and that was awesome to get deep dive in terms of healthcare and digital health, and go through other like-minded digital health entrepreneurs to have that ecosystem. And then just in general, I think Jaden and Clay were super intentional about building their board of advisors and advisorship to shore up weaknesses or areas they might not be specifically strong in. And then don't be afraid to ask questions. Just like Renee mentioned, don't be afraid to get proximate and learn about have a coffee chat with someone to deep dive, and especially in terms of healthcare, really spooling up on the complexities of that. Don't be afraid to ask, interview or have coffee chats with doctors, with healthcare, with social workers, because there's such a wealth of information that you don't know until you get out there and ask. So I think, yeah, just be comfortable with not knowing what you don't know and asking someone for some help.
Awesome. Thanks for those tips. And finally, we have Diana.
Yeah, so I think echoing a lot of what's already been said, particularly, what we just heard about healthcare too. I mean, a lot of these things are complicated, and I definitely didn't have, a super specific idea of what I wanted to do, especially when I was starting out. So I think for me personally, I'm someone that benefits a lot from the individual mentorships that I've had with people who are kind of further along than me. I think, again, especially when it comes to kind of just such a complex industry like healthcare or navigating sort of the San Diego economic climate, there's a lot of nuances that can be hard to pick up. And so, like Trevor just said, I think for me, it was having those kind of deeper conversations with people, being sort of putting aside my embarrassment or my insecurities about my own questions or doubts, and just asking, what other people thought would be a good idea for me, a good path for me, and also sort of using those relationships with people who have maybe more experience than I do, even to see where the I think Renee was talking about pain points, like where there are problems that might be easily solved. And I think that's something that everybody here is kind of interested in doing, is finding a problem and solving it, or maybe already having a problem and finding the solution. And yeah, for me, it was those coffee chats, like Trevor mentioned, those individual conversations where you can really put your heads together with somebody. And I think for me, it was learning that those other people that I think are so intimidating because they seem to know what they're talking about, or they seem farther along than me, they're happy to answer questions, and they're excited to answer questions and to mentor and chat with you about something that you're excited about. So I think that was a big takeaway for me.
Awesome. Thank you all for sharing. We've talked about y'all's journeys up so far. Now I'm going to ask, what are your goals for 2021? And Diana, why don't you continue and answer that question?
Yeah, so it's hard to think about 2021 without thinking about 2020. And in particular, I know we had a very historic moment for our country earlier today, that I was watching the news, and I'm sure there are other people watching the news. So I would be remiss not to mention just the bigger picture. And I think for me, so much of the work that I do is kind of intertwined with the state of the community, the San Diego community, and also even national politics as well. So I think for me, I'm very focused on healing, both as a medical student, but also just kind of emotionally from the things that we've sort of been dealt over the several months. So I think for me, I'm just looking for ways to continue my own sort of personal growth, and also look for ways to help out our community. And I do just want to put a brief plug. There has been a launch of a vaccine super center in San Diego. And I think they're talking about launching a second site. So I've been involved in that just outside of my work with the free clinic, but their goal is to vaccinate thousands of people per day. And so everybody on this call should be excited to get their vaccine. And I'm happy to talk to you if you have any questions about that. But other than that, just I think trying to stay on top of my own personal well-being and the well-being of others is kind of my main goal throughout my whole life.
Yes, thank you for that plug. Yes, everyone hit up Diana. Renee, what about you? What are your goals for 2021?
So just like Diana said, it's hard to think about 2021 without thinking about 2020. And so with me and with Donation Match, both the companies in our system as well as the nonprofits were hit pretty hard when everything went virtual, I guess you could say, because we have clients who are amusement parks, and some, like California's Great America and Santa Clara, never even opened all season. So their entire income for 2020, I guess, was essentially zero. But we are hopeful for 2021 and the vaccines. So I think my goal is to really help my customers on both sides recover and really help support them in adapting and hopefully being able to recoup a lot of what wasn't happening last year, both in the fundraising events and the marketing exposure that wasn't happening, as well as really just hoping that people can safely get back to business again. I think a bright side of what's evolved is that a lot of organizations that were holding in-person fundraising events and resisting using more digital solutions have, probably in their minds bitten the bullet and done it, but realize that especially because of the great needs, there are actually a lot better solutions now too. I saw a lot of our partners, the platforms that enable those auctions, really ramp up their development and their ease of use, I think, to make sure that as many people could actually continue to do fundraising in ways that were still possible, that the people who could afford to give back could do it easily without being inhibited by the technology. And that the companies could also give back in ways that don't necessarily cost them, except, cost them in ways that would diminish their ability to run a good business, I guess we could say. So, I think just doing more of what we had been doing, but really focusing and, being sensitive to the fact that there's still going to be hesitation, of course, and we have to be mindful of safety. But I think 2021 will definitely be an interesting year of learning, adapting back, and finding probably a really good hybrid type of reality.
Thank you. Next we have Trevor.
Yeah, so I guess on that first question, I didn't do a very good job of telling you guys where Family Proud was and where we are now, and then what are we want to expand on in 2021. So right now, we're at the MVP, so minimum viable product, and what that is to handle those emotional, logistical, financial burdens. Emotionally, like who can you reach out to in a time of need? Who connects with you? Who might have been in your shoes? We have this peer-to-peer reach out system and community there to facilitate, who might be in your area that has been through similar hardship, wants to reach back and pull you out of the darkness, if you will. Logistically, so this care calendar concept. So how can I assign tasks, or what recommendations to particular checklist items might get you, take your first step and take this first step out of the chaos that comes with a hardship or a diagnosis. And then finally, financially, out-of-pocket medical expenses is the number one cause of family bankruptcies. And so how to get beyond just a blanket GoFundMe and create transparency in the ask, teach people to be great supporters and know, support, don't just give money if money's not needed, or give a teddy bear or roses if that's not needed. What is truly needed? What are products and services that will get that family out of that hardship? And then I guess in 2020, we also started working with the DoD in terms of Air Force Airmen Family Resiliency. So that was an exciting project we look to expand on in 2021. And I guess the big goal for us in 2021 is to close this difficult feedback loop and getting. 2020 was all about who are the different players and stakeholders and who can we serve. And that is like boiling the ocean. We can serve large healthcare systems. We can serve, caregivers or patients or supporters. And so 2021 is going to be really dialing into where can we help most and where can we provide most value? Is it the caregiver? Is it the patient? Is it a supporter? Is it larger healthcare systems? Is it all of the above? We're trying to dial that in and closing that feedback loop. And that's been difficult because, throwing out a survey, hey, try this website out or buy my better mousetrap. We're meeting people in very crisis situations where they don't have time, they don't have energy, they don't have bandwidth, they don't have resources to give us that feedback. So it's a delicate conversation. And that's why it's important that everyone on the team has been in those shoes in some capacity or another, and we can relate to them. I love having calls when I do get on the phone with the people we serve, because that's time for me to kind of check out and only focus on their story and relate to them, just be an ear to listen to, frankly, and get that feedback that comes out in those deeper conversations. So in 2021, it's all about engagement for us, and it's about serving the exact market where we can provide the most value to that person or that group, instead of we've laid out all the angles here, and now let's focus on that one that helps the most.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing. We have Reese. What are your goals for 2021?
Yeah, so being such a young company, reflecting back on 2020 was really interesting because for me, that was my first exposure kind of into the entrepreneurship world, was entirely virtual. And I actually really like it. So I basically grew up as an entrepreneur in taking virtual calls and doing virtual panels and doing virtual pitch competitions. And I think that's given us the ability to cover a lot more ground. We were able to take part in an incubator that's located in Berkeley, one that's located one that's located in San Diego at the same time. And we wouldn't have had that opportunity had we had to pick one or the other. Going into 2021, we're looking at raising our first funding round and trying to create a contingency plan for once our staff graduates. Since we're mostly a team of college students, we have to figure out, okay, how are we going to take this full time and how are we going to support ourselves as we finish college and move on into the real world. And with that being said, also we are developing, we're hiring, we're actually really expanding at quite a rapid rate that it's hard to always keep tabs on it, especially being a college student. So kind of our goals for 2020 are to hopefully get some capital under our belts, get some more staff, and develop and launch our products by the end of 2021.
Awesome. Thank you all for sharing. And as all of you have been saying, 2020 has been quite a year. So for 2021, what was like one piece of advice you can give to our audience today? And why don't we start off with Renee?
I forgot to think about this question. I think, I think what has helped me a lot in my journey from all the way from college to now is I actually tend to think that, and not everyone prescribes to this, but it definitely helps me adapt to wherever I am, is that I feel that everything happens for a reason. And if you can look for the silver lining, look for the bright side, look for the lesson, or whatever it is you might need to in moments, that I feel has led me to where we are today. And it keeps me going. I obviously love what I do. But, I guess that would be my advice, that if you can find a reason for whatever is happening, and use it to help move you forward. That's usually what, not bad advice, I suppose.
Awesome. Thank you. Trevor, any advice you can give?
Yeah, I mean, I guess not necessarily related to last year, but my kind of life's marching motto is a quote. I don't even know where I picked it up, but it just made sense for me. Was, if you ever have the opportunity to do something amazing in life, bring someone along with you. I've always been a team player, and when I was teaching at the Naval Academy, I lived in Baltimore City back, and this was in 2015 when the Freddie Gray unrests were happening, and I could have spent my summer volunteering with the Y or the Boys and Girls Club or Big Brother, or tutor, but I don't know what started clicking, but I've always been biased toward action, and I wanted to. I didn't want to just do the standard volunteer route, and long story short, I pitched this idea to kids in a park one day to detail cars. I was tired of the racial tension. I literally, said, "Hey, 5 African American kids, let's detail some cars. Let's turn it into a business." I wanted to be more than just a mentor. I wanted to be their teammate, and impart any opportunity I had in my naval career. And we threw up a Yelp page, and we became the #1 mobile auto detailer in Baltimore City. And it was just, it was so much more rewarding for me to, be proud of these kids, shaking people's hands and looking in the eye and being proud of a service that they just gave somebody. And the social entrepreneur bug really bit me there. And so, I just would encourage everyone to be, biased towards action. Who cares if it sounds funky or funny? And give it your best shot and learn from mistakes. And if you ever have the opportunity to do something amazing, bring someone with you.
Thank you for that piece of advice. Reese, any advice to give?
This is for like all the college age kids that are here. My advice, if you have an idea, now is the best time to go for it. Because if you fail now, you don't have like you don't have like a mortgage, you don't have a family, you have like the perfect situation that if you fail, you can just pick yourself up and keep moving. That's what's been driving me now. That's what I recommend to anyone who comes up with an idea for me. Like, do it now. And if you don't do it now, you're gonna have a job, then you're gonna have other excuses not to do it later. So if you really have an idea, if you really find that problem and there's that itch that you want to solve it, go for it. There's no risk right now.
Thank you for the encouragement for college students. Finally have Diana.
Yeah, just to tack on my to Reese, my dad always says, fail cheap, fail easy, fail often. It's very very on the nose, I think. But no, I was actually going to say I do a lot of sort of mentorship with undergrads at UCSD and outside of UCSD. I'm also kind of recent grads as well. And I think I was sort of reminded of what I often tell those folks when I'm chatting with them, is that, maybe where you want to go and you feel like you have to check a certain box to get there. But it's so much more valuable to find something that you're passionate about and do that thing, even if it doesn't necessarily look like what the person next to you is doing. I think that is not only just more personally fulfilling for you to be able to follow your own passion and your own dreams, but I do truly think that it also helps you to become more successful, because if you are the person driving yourself, you're just so much more efficient, really. Like you might spend those extra hours or that extra kind of effort and energy working on a problem, but it's because you love what you're doing. And so I think it leads to a more balanced kind of life emotionally, but it also can help you to reach your goals. So I think I am definitely having conversations with undergrads, all the time about how to take a step back, think about what really makes them tick and makes them feel passionate and like driven and on, and how to just do more of that, rather than if you feel like you need to follow a certain path or go through a set of motions. So I think that's the biggest thing I wanted to leave with you all today.
Thank you all for sharing those pieces of advice. We have one last question, and this is how can each person make a difference today? You're all doing great work, so love to hear all the thoughts you have. And let's start with Reese.
Honestly, how someone can make a difference like today, I would say just be nice to people. Everyone's going through their own journey right now. Everything's changed and shaken up. And I'm always so astounded when people are just rude right now. Like we're all suffering. We all don't want to be inside. We all don't want to be going through this almost for like a year now. So I think if you want to make a difference just today, just say hi to someone. Smile when you walk by them. Well, I guess you can't really smile when you walk by them. But be understanding if they need to reschedule. Be understanding if homework doesn't get turned in on time. Be understanding and just be understanding with yourself. Like set realistic goals. Don't get upset if, oh, maybe I didn't get a lot of stuff done today. Like it's okay. It'll get done tomorrow. Life right now is kind of sucky, but it'll get better. And as long as you just keep pushing on and be nice and just be a good person, you'll make the whole situation just better.
Thank you. And we'll have Renee share.
So I totally agree with what Reese said. And I guess I guess it's like a tagging onto that a little bit. You know, I think everybody can give back somehow. Again, whether it's a smile, a thank you, a note, or if possible, you know, looking for organizations, you know, if you don't have your own already, to find organizations that can support people that you're interested in supporting, whether it's with your time, what do they call it, time, treasure, or time, oh my goodness. Anyway, time, money, treasure. But basically, you know, and I like to do it, and I feel like donation match is a bit of my give back, because it, you know, it actually makes you feel better as well. And in, you know, in these times, I think it can be a bit selfish to want to give back to make yourself feel better, but you know, it's a win-win prospect. And I think, you know, I think giving back is something that you can do to make a difference, even if it's, you know, to a personal friend, a relative, things like that. You know, foster some connection for yourself, and you'll realize the benefits from that too.
Awesome. Thank you. Let's have Diana share.
Yeah, I mean, I think just to sort of echo again, but one thing that has really struck me in particular when thinking about sort of the past year, I think we're all stronger when we're connecting with others rather than kind of operating in our own little silo. And maybe it's just because we're all literally like operating in our own little silo right now that I've been thinking about this more. But I think in terms of just thinking about how each person can make a difference, it doesn't have to be a big dramatic idea that you sort of work on your own in your room for a long time and then launch it at the end of a whole shebang. I think that a lot of us already have connections that you know, that we have with our peers or with our community, and it's just kind of a matter of thinking about how you want to strengthen those connections or make something new, you know, based on something that's already happening. And just to quickly share, I was sort of separate from my work with the Free Clinic. I also am involved with an anti-racism organization within the medical school and health sciences here in San Diego. And I think a lot of the times we come up with an idea that feels novel, that feels like, oh my gosh, there's this problem going on and like we need to fix it. Like, why has this not been fixed already? And then after a little bit more discussion, this was in particular talking about some of the inequity in med school admissions that we were talking about. And after thinking over this problem for like a couple hours, you come to realize and do some Googling and say, oh my gosh, there's like entire organizations that are doing this. We should connect to them, you know, like what would be so much more effective if we can kind of join forces. And I think, you I know we're here to talk about entrepreneurship and how to make your own idea into a reality, but I think there's also a lot of value for seeing the ideas of, your friends, your classmates, and helping contribute what you have to contribute, your time or your treasure or whatever that might be, to help them make it a reality too. And you can end up making something that's even more valuable and effective when you sort of team up that way.
Thank you for sharing. Have Trevor next.
Yeah, I feel like we're all on the same wavelength because I relate to a lot of what the other panelists have already mentioned in terms of, the bigger picture is just being around people that want to make a difference or want to change, and being part of that ecosystem, and, spotting each other, if you will, and being part of that energy moving forward. President Biden referenced Abe Lincoln today when he was signing his Emancipation Proclamation, and stating how, his whole soul was into that, and that's how he'd be known, paraphrasing there. And then Biden said, his whole soul was into this presidency. And so I think the Holy Grail is, we always talk about passion and purpose, is, find some work or some purpose where your whole soul is into it. And that's easier said than done. I still haven't figured that out for myself. So don't be sitting here as a college student and not knowing your passion or purpose by any means. So how do you get there? I think my advice to making a difference today and to how to lead a life is to always be curious, stay curious, ask those questions. And then the second part, which I stole from, there's a chief diversity officer for Zoom. Previously, he was chief diversity officer for Uber and then eBay. And his name is Damian Hooper Campbell. And he spoke at our class, and, you could say it's a buzzword, but it just resonated from him to me, was this phrase, get proximate. And it reminded me of Diana, delivering the groceries on a personal level to someone she didn't know, went to the doorstep, possibly asked or had a 30-second conversation. Get proximate to those that you don't understand. And I think that's important for social entrepreneurs, because that's how probably, you start hearing of problems, or a light bulb might go off, or your passion or purpose, might take another direction. So be curious and get proximate, and be around people and that ecosystem and that energy to kind of hold you accountable and keep you down that path. One more plug for me. I'm a Pat Tillman military scholar. So the Pat Tillman Foundation, feel free to Google that or reach out to me. They fund about 60 military scholars a year. And that community is, every time I'm around that for alumni events, you just feel this energy of people doing extraordinary things. And it's like imposter syndrome, like, why am I here? And everyone is passing me and doing awesome stuff. But everyone's got their own little fire inside them. And it's just a matter of opening, finding that out through curiosity and getting proximate.
Awesome. Thank you, panelists, for sharing all your thoughts and advice. Right now, we're going to open it up to different questions. So y'all feel free, audience members, send them into chat. And if you want to send it anonymously, feel free to just PM me and I'll ask. So one of the first questions is, how did you decide who to bring onto your team? And anyone can start for panelists, and feel free to chime in.
I can go real fast. So from a university, from just being like a college senior, hiring is really difficult, because you have to kind of prove your credibility, and you have to prove that you're worthy for people to work for you. And how I went about doing that is, when I pitched it, you have to pitch from the perspective, you have to frame the problem. So there's 100,000 annual college sexual assault survivors every single year. And we pick people who are dedicated to addressing that issue. We only want people on our team who are passionate advocates or survivors, and who know exactly how difficult the problem is. Because especially when it comes to doing a startup, and especially being an early stage startup, you're going to put in the hours. I work 20 to 30 hours a week, and I'm a full-time student, and I have a job. You're going to end up putting in the hours. They want people who are dedicated to the problem, and they know that this is what they want to do, and this is what they want to fix.
Awesome. And other panelists who wanted to chime in.
So I'll add a little bit. I'm probably fairly unique in that we've been around for over 10 years, but our actual team is still just 2 founders. We do have outside help for things like social media and a little bit of business development and other things like that. But we've actually purposely kept ourselves fairly lean. But our team does consist of advisors and other people who are in our network as well. And I would say, interestingly, people who we have hired here and there have found us. So that, I guess, is a bit of in alignment with what Reese said about finding people who are passionate about what you do, because people who have found us and told us, oh my gosh, I love what you do. I do silent auctions all the time. I'm talking to all these businesses every year. I want to help you grow because you make my job easier. Those are the kinds of people we like to work with. So people who already identify and are advocates of what you do and actually seek you out are probably a really good way to, at least, make yourself visible, meet people, ask for referrals as well. Otherwise, other ways we've brought people on that we work with is also by word of mouth, and that's where your network comes in. But also, that they've been somewhat vetted by people who have worked with them before or have known them for a long time. And I tend to be someone who likes to work through my connections.
Yeah, real quick from the Family Proud side. So I am not I contribute to the hiring process, but I am not like Jaden or Clay as founders that are bringing very early employees on board. But I think similar to what Reese and Renee said, I think it's just about at that early stage, the alignment. We always ask about, empathy and lived experience and can you relate? And, are you passionate about, giving people the support network they deserve? Those kind of like personality questions are more important than kind of the technical stuff, and then being able to take a chance on somebody. But my gift to the panel, I love this interview resource. I'll chat it in there. It's 40 interview questions that really like peel back the layer on who you're speaking with. And I encourage everyone to, if you're ever in the hiring capacity, go through that list and see if any of those questions stand out, because it's awesome to really tease out different elements of the person and personality that you wouldn't get by saying, tell me about a time you failed, the standard stuff. There's some really interesting questions in there that I have found extraordinarily helpful.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing. Very, very helpful. And feel free whenever, if y'all want to chime in with any thoughts, panelists, feel free to do so. The next question that we talked a lot about passion and like motivation. So how do you stay motivated and passionate about what you're working on? This is to all panelists. Anyone can start.
I can start this one off. I think for me, and I think echoing what a lot of people have talked about already, I think it was Trevor talking about staying proximate to your passion. And I think for me, the thing that makes me tick, keeps me going, is the individual interactions that I have with my patients, which I guess isn't surprising given what I do. But like just as an example, I'm normally in my role, I'm kind of the person coordinating the clinic where I work and making sure everything runs smoothly. But every once in a while, and actually yesterday, I went on a trip to deliver some medications and some food to a patient, and I try to do that, every few weeks or so, just because, when I went to this person's house yesterday, it was like 7 p.m. She was so kind. It was a little bit later than my friend and I had intended to get there, and I was speaking Spanish to her, which is not my first language, and she was thanking us profusely, really wanted to give us a hug, but of course we try to avoid social contact because of infection risk. She was asking me why I wasn't wearing a coat because it was raining a little bit, and just so loving and grateful towards us. And those are the kinds of interactions that I don't have every day, but when I do have them, I'm like, oh yeah, that's why I'm doing this whole thing in the first place. So I think it doesn't necessarily have to be the interpersonal interactions for you. I think, you know, we all have kind of our own version of that, but for me, it's being able to see somebody smile because I just helped them out. And I would encourage all of you to kind of find whatever your thing is and what your version of that, and just keep giving yourself those opportunities to stay motivated.
I can add on to that real fast. Like, working in such a stressful and traumatizing and frustrating space, it can be really hard to keep going. You can listen to survivors talk and you can hear the pain and hear the struggle that they've gone through. But it's when you get sentences like, "I wish this was here when I was going through my process," or "I wish that something existed like this. This would have changed the outcome of my case." Those are the sentences that keep me going. I have them all written in a book, and every time that I feel like giving up, I'm like, I can't do this. Like, I have too much work. I have too much stress. Like, this is getting too traumatizing. I look back on this book and I read what other survivors have told me about the work that I'm doing, and that's kind of what keeps me going and keeps those late nights more bearable.
Yeah. So I stay motivated because I actually feel like what I do at Donation Match is a culmination of a lot of what I've done in my life to this point. You know, when I graduated from UCSD, I actually, you know, I was a bioengineering degree. I had a bioengineering degree, worked in a lab, but you know, circumstances there actually led me to work at a tech startup instead. And you know, as things started to fall into place in hindsight, I feel like you know, I got my business experience and then the nonprofit experience came about. And all of a sudden, this was joining the two of them together. And much like what Reese and Diana said, although our platform at Donation Match is actually meant to serve a lot of people in a way that I don't have to. You know, I'm not the bottleneck. It's a very much self-serve platform like Match.com or any other matchmaking site. It's the ones who do write into us who need help or simply want to you know, say something, I guess, to us that really fuel me because you know, I can see the difference I'm making with companies that we work with. A lot of them are actually able to scale up, and I encourage them to because it won't necessarily cost them anymore because they're doing so much savings in their efficiencies that they're going to benefit by, you know, by being more generous to their communities and being able to actually help the companies give back to their communities more using our platform, and knowing that that's going to then also level up the fundraising that these organizations are going to be able to do and then give, of course, serve their beneficiaries better is really, in effect, I feel like just one cog in this whole process, but you know, but it needs to be there in order for everyone else to work together. And I think that's what propels me to keep doing this every day.
Awesome. Yes. Diana will have to head out. And if you have anything else you want to say before you go or how folks have been involved, feel free. And if not, yeah, leave y'all can check out the information in the chat that I left.
Yeah, I just wanted to say thanks, everyone. And sorry, I have to head out now, but feel free to get in touch with me or Google the UCSD Student Run Free Clinic for more information about what we do. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Diana. Awesome. There are a couple other questions, and yeah, I forget if one of the panelists didn't answer the questions, but feel free to add in. One of the other questions we had was, so this is part of the Changemaker week, right? So this year's theme is change making for a just and equitable future. So how does that resonate with you and your goals for the panelists? And how can students get more involved with your organizations? Again, anyone can go ahead and share.
Yeah, I mean, just from our standpoint, you know, Family Proud, we know that healthcare does not, or healthcare crises don't discriminate, and families don't see, or healthcare doesn't see borders, or hardship doesn't see borders. And so one piece of feedback that we've gotten here in the local San Diego area is always to have a Spanish speaking version of the platform. And that is definitely on our roadmap. I wish that I was more fluent, but I help with the help of Google Translate. I navigate through emails and calls and for users on the platform. And so, when it comes to serving families, yeah, it's whoever's in most need of help. I think we have a very diverse team, and I don't think I would have joined an organization that didn't have those same principles, because the shared perspectives, all the benefits and awesomeness of diversity. I think that it helps us just be more empathetic and take a more broad perspective of everything. Family Proud is certainly an open family to anyone that wants to get involved or help out. The websites, I can share it with Christine later or Amanda later. And you can certainly reach out to me as well. I can share my email afterward also, and I'll put it in the panel. But yeah, we usually get a lot of USD and UCSD based interns through the Advancing San Diego program from the Small Business Development Council for San Diego, or the Economic Development Center, EDC. And that's been an awesome way to, for me to mentor and guide, students and graduate students, and to kind of point them along their career trajectory. Just if they, follow on offers are entertained and all that good stuff. So I think we're building something special, and it's exciting for people that want to get involved. So appreciate whoever put that in the chat.
So I'll add that in creating Donation Match, a large focus of our platform as a whole has been access. And, we make a big point to, excuse me, to keep access to our platform, keep free access to our platform. We do have upgrades, of course, optional upgrades that help support us. But the vast majority of nonprofit organizations that use our platform do it for free. And we think this is important because, this is access to donors, being able to put your opportunities, put your causes in front of donor companies that you may not necessarily have personal connections to, but essentially putting you a bit more on level ground in terms of what you can do to, what you're doing in the communities, of course, what your work is, but also just being able to, in a way, access donors based on a certain set of criteria, and, not necessarily anything else. We think, if you deserve access based on what you're doing and it meets what the company is looking for, we don't want anything to stop that. So, being able to provide a free platform to even discover more resources for yourself is a large part of what we do. And even on the flip side, actually, on the donor company side, there are a lot of small businesses out there who feel like marketing costs too much, or marketing, they don't have time for it. And interestingly, there are a lot of businesses out there, businesses like, or companies like Keurig, for example, and Stone Brewing Company, that don't pay for marketing. They didn't. They grew by giving their things, their products away. And a lot of famous examples, Kind Bar as well. They eventually went to product sampling instead of paid marketing. And so these examples show that you don't necessarily have to have the resources if you do things in the right way, if you lead by generosity. And that's a lot of what our platform does, is help even the small businesses who can't afford to pay for something to essentially be willing to give away their products, but prove that they're a business worth supporting as well.
Just kind of close out the question. So yeah, for an equitable future, we're trying to create a platform where survivor stories can be heard and believed. As we all know, that's not very common, and there's always tons of backlash for survivors coming forward. So our goal in the distant future is to create a space where survivors can use our platform, preserve their assault details, and come forward and still be believed. And then how students can get involved. As I said, we're hiring. I'll drop my email in the chat, but we're definitely looking for upper level students who are looking for an internship and really looking to work for a cause that they care about. So if you listen to this panel and time has sounded really interesting, I'll drop my email and feel free to reach out with me and we can keep in contact.
Awesome. Thank you again, panelists, for sharing and sharing how folks can get connected with y'all. We're actually going to be ending a bit early, but feel free to, if panelists can drop their information in the chat if they haven't already, and then y'all feel free to like reach them through LinkedIn and all those emails. Their LinkedIns are also on our event page. But yes, this event was brought by Ideas Council. So their mission is to support and foster and promote entrepreneurship within UC San Diego. They actually have a meeting Wednesday, February 3rd, and it's open to the public, so y'all can definitely join. It's like a combination of all of the like accelerators and incubators that some of the panelists have mentioned. So that's the link to go there, and you can contact Christine if you want to join the call for Ideas Council. So before we end, I wanted to give space for like panelists. If you have anything else you wanted to add or like share, this space is yours. Cool. All right. So again, thank you for coming. Thank you again to our panelists, and thank you for everyone who joined our call today. Yes, feel free, make sure to connect. Yes, go ahead.
I was saying thank you, Amanda. Thank you, Christine, for organizing all this.
Yeah, it was awesome. Thank you, everybody.